So today's challenge is to take your cell phone and I want you to go outside. You can go where no one's looking. That's fine. You can do it inside if you're in a cold climate like New York, like I am. I want you to go outside and I want you to film yourself having a conversation with your boss. Can everyone hear me? I want you to go outside. I want you to take your cell phone and I want you to film yourself having a mock conversation about your salary, right? That's today's challenge. Because actually by having that fake conversation and filming it, you'll be able to watch that video back, right? And of course, it'll be a bit awkward because you're talking to yourself in the middle of a park and it's a bit weird and whatever. And you'll notice certain things, right? So you might notice that your eyes start to dart around when you get nervous, or you might notice that your cheeks go bright red, or you might notice that you keep looking down, that you can't make eye contact with the phone. Now, it's a fixed situation, so it doesn't matter, but I want you to look at these cues too, these little clues, because they will give you an indication of some of the things that you need to manage and that you need to watch when you're having these actual conversations in real life, right? Because if you do this exercise and if you go outside to a park and you film yourself saying, "Hi, Joanne, I'm really proud of the success that I've had this year, including the fact that I've personally co-signed 2 new clients. I've managed to reduce our carbon emissions by 3% year on year, which I'm really stoked about. And, given all that and the team that of 12 people that I've led this year with a great NPS score, I want to talk to you about my compensation and what I think that could look like going forward." Right. So I want you to record this conversation and then I want you to watch it back with no sound. So I want you to watch like a silent movie vibe of yourself back, because when you watch yourself with no audio, you actually get a lot of those non-verbal cues. And here's the thing in communication, let me put it to you actually. When you're communicating, what percent of out of 100, what percent of communication do you think is about the words that you say? So out of 100, do you reckon it's 50-50, 50% the words, 50% how you say them? Is it 20% the words, 80% how you say them? What do you think the split is? Let me know in the chat what percentage out of 100 you think it is important, the words that you're saying. Okay, so Patty's made a call, 15%. She reckons it's 15% about the words that you say, so 85% how you say them. Shelby is saying it's 80-20. Really interesting, right? And like I used to think, oh, it's like 80% about the words, right? Because we spend so much time like writing every word in a speech and a script and getting it exactly right. And actually, when you look at the research, it's less than 20%. It's actually less than 15%. So Patty's on the money there, right? I think it's 13% from memory. 13% is about the words that you say. And the important thing to know there is that means it's like 80+% is how you say those words. And so that's why I'm going to get you to do this exercise and film yourself Blair Witch style like this, having a fake mock conversation. And then I want you to watch that video back with no sound, because the no sound gives you the opportunity to focus just on your body language. How are you communicating? What are your eyebrows doing? Where are your eyes going? Are your shoulders like this? Are you looking small? Are your shoulders back and you're coming from a place of confidence? Anyone who's watched Amy Cuddy's TED Talk will know how important body language is, and making yourself, as big, quote unquote, as you can. You want to stand up straight, shoulders back, like you want to be like out here in the world, as opposed to like, "Hi boss, how are you? Yeah, I want to talk to you about my salary." Instead of like, "I'm so excited to be here. I'd like to talk to you about my salary." Right? So those little things like leaning forward, even in a Zoom situation, versus like leaning back, kind of looking a bit disinterested. You want to sort of be engaged with the camera or the human, depending on the scenario. So this exercise, I know it seems a little bit like drama school and a little bit out there, but it's very, very interesting. And I think you'll learn something about the non-verbal cues that you're giving off to folks when you're communicating about yourself, your value, and your salary requests. So that body language piece is really important. And the first step is understanding how are people perceiving you and your body language, right? So a great way to do that is to have that silent movie experience of yourself, and to see what you can learn. So that's the exercise for today. It should take you probably less than 5 minutes, I reckon, by the time you get your cell phone out and record the video, maybe another 3 or 4 minutes to watch it back. But then if you're feeling brave, you can watch it back with sound on too, to sort of hear, do you use any of those qualifying words that we talk about with that FED framework, right? So do that today. If you're feeling brave and you'd like to share your video, feel free to post it in the Facebook group, or you can just email it to me. Just hit reply to the challenge emails and send me the video and I'll check it out. My team and I would love to give you some candid feedback about it and be supportive, and also give you some constructive feedback too. So go ahead and send that to us if you would like. More than happy to help and take a look at that. So, you know, over the course of 5 days, it's not a long period of time, but we really have learned a few really interesting frameworks, right? Like, we've reached out to someone in our network to ask for their feedback. We've talked about trying not to use certain qualifying words. We've channeled our inner narcissist, right, to sort of learn about how do we talk ourselves up in a way that feels really good to us. And we've started to focus on those successes and those wins that we're having every single week. And so imagine if you could take just one of these tips from this week, and if you could do that consistently. Every week, every week, every week. Over the course of the year, you would have 30, 40, 50 things that you could recall, that you could come back to use in job interviews. You could integrate into your LinkedIn. You could use those stories in your job interview conversations or your promotion conversations, right? So I want this to be a practice for you all. I don't want it to be sort of like, oh, that was a cute challenge. Anyway, on to the next thing. I would love for you to make this consistent, right? So if you're not already, check out the Pep Talk Her app. It's totally free. We don't make it costs us money every month, much to my accountant's disgust. But we do that because it's part of our impact work, because I want you to have those consistent reminders, and that's what the app does. It sends you notifications, it sends you prompts to reflect on those wins, right? So that's one thing that you can do. The other thing that you can do is stay in touch with us on Instagram. And if you're interested, we've got the last cohort for this year starting in about a week's time. So we would love to have you join us. Jersey on my team is going to pop the link to that into the chat. She's put the link to the app. Thanks, Jersey. And she'll put the link to the course in the chat too. That's on sale because it's Black Friday coming up. So we just put it on sale early. So it's just under $1,500. It's $1,497. So that's on sale. The price goes up on Sunday, and then we start the course on Tuesday. So in like 1 week. So yeah, it's going to in 10 days, more or less, the program. So you get access to our Slack community. We'll have those bi-weekly calls. You get to connect with women all around the world. And even after you've graduated from the program, you'll retain access to the Slack channel. You'll be a member of our community and you'll get to connect with everyone and all those kind of good fun things. If you want to, you can also join our mastermind, which is $197 a month. No lock-in contracts. If you love it, you can stay for 2 years like some people do, or you could just do 3 months and then tap out and whatever. So that's another option that people have as well if you want to stay connected with the community. It's an amazing group of women, professional women. We've got people from TikTok, PwC, Deloitte, startups, not for someone working in PR, someone in marketing, like all sorts of random professions. But the thing that connects all of us is that we are aspirational, that we are value adds to each other's lives. Like everyone in this community is very glass half and with their connections, and everyone cheers each other on and is supportive. And I know that sounds a bit kumbaya, but it's true. And I'm really proud of that space and that community that we've created. It is super supportive, and sometimes it can feel lonely. If you're in a toxic workplace, or if your friends are just in a different place to you right now, maybe they're great friends, but they just like not profession and career is not their thing, and that's cool. But if you're wanting people who it is their thing and they're really driven to earn quite a lot of money and to retire early and to get excited about talking about finances and like investing and angel investing and saving for retirement so that you can sit on a beach at 50 instead of when you're 65, that stuff keeps me up at night and it gets me excited, and that's what we do in the community as well. So check that out. If you've got questions, you can hit me up on email. Jersey's put the link to the course in the program too. Enrollment closes, I think it's, enrollment will close in 10 days, but the early bird price will stop after Black Friday. So I guess it's on sale for another 7 days. But people who join this week will also be getting our bonus. We have 3 bonuses that we send to you. We send our annual yearly planner, which automatically gives you like the checklist of things that we suggest you do every year for your professional career and also in life. So that's just like a really great checklist. So you don't have to think about things. You can just kind of go through the sheet and tick things off. You also get access to our Power Players video series, which is amazing. There's a heap of senior female execs from companies like Salesforce, Spotify, Red Bull, who've shared their stories about office politics and how they've handled that. So you'll get access to that video series as well if you join in the next week. And there's another bonus too, and because I'm joining you from my car, I can't recall what it is, but we'll send you an email. Hang on, what is it? Oh yeah, you also get access to our Salary SOS course too, which is a mini course that is really good if you just need like a 35-minute refresher before you're going into salary conversation. So you'll get access to those bonuses too. And I can see there's some people on the call who've already joined. So welcome to you. I'm so happy to have you here. We're looking forward to it, to the course kicking off. The sooner you join the course, you'll get access to the Slack straight away. And we'll start to introduce you to relevant people in the network as well. If you're looking for work or if you're looking for a sponsor specifically, you can let us know and we'll make those relevant introductions for you too. But yeah, I'm so excited. I love running these cohorts. This is the first and only time we're running it this year. I came back from maternity leave late last year and life just got in the way. We've got an exciting new physical product that's coming out in time for the holiday season. So you'll all start to see about that in about 2 weeks. So that just took a lot of my headspace. And we're also starting a podcast next year. So we've been sort of doing a lot of that stuff and we haven't had as much time to run the programs this year. So it's awesome that we're getting the one and only cohort in for this year. And then we're not sure when we'll be running it again. It could be another 6 to 12 months. So if you're on the fence, I would say jump on in. And if you don't like it, you have 7 days and you can get your money back as well. Because there's also a payment plan. So I think the payment plan is like $297. And that's 6 different payments. So if that's helpful from a cash flow perspective, I totally get it. That's like a really good way to go about it too. But has anyone got any questions about the course, about what's going on for you right now, let me know in the chat. Everyone who's joined the course will be getting the invite to the Slack and you're logging within the next 48 hours. It's all automated. So the system just like takes your email, spits it over here and spits it over there. And then you're to get emails with your registration info. So keep an eye on your inbox for that and for your Slack invite as well, so that you can start to meet other folks in the community. Yeah, I'm so happy to have Siska here. And Siska, I don't know if you want to share this. I don't want to share it without your permission, but you sent me an email maybe a week ago telling me about a pay raise that you had recently. So I don't know if you want to share that in the chat or jump off of mute. But Siska did our course maybe 2 years ago now and has had some awesome results. Typically, you've probably heard me say this before, normally people get $5,000 pay raise as a worst case scenario. Most people get between $20,000 and $50,000 more within the next sort of 3 to 6 months of doing the course. Some people get a lot more than that, but 5,000 would be the worst case scenario from my perspective. If you don't get that, I would be concerned. I would work with you to figure out how we can get you at least that. But yeah, most people are anywhere from 22,000 up to sort of like 47 is pretty like, yeah, we're like, yeah, that's really good. Great. That's awesome. And then the people we get really excited about are the folks that are getting, you know, like 80, 90, $100,000 more, which is pretty remarkable. And it kind of seems impossible, but actually when you break it down and when you go through our process of analyzing your value and how you can quantify that within the business, it's kind of a no-brainer, which is why these big companies are paying it, right? Not because they're good humans, it's because they see the value and we've helped you quantify that. So it makes it a no-brainer. So I don't know if Andrea, Shelvia, KC has any questions, or Anna's saying that they don't even think about adding the qualifying word was super helpful. Patty, don't know if you've got any questions, but feel free to pop them in the chat. And I'll get to as many of those as possible. Jersey can pop the link to the course again in the chat too. And then any questions, just hit me up with an email and happy to come back to you. But it's been such a pleasure to have you in the program. We'll have a couple of calls next week. You'll get to meet some students if you want to get some more information. We're going to be running another masterclass, the same content as the other day, but I'm just going to run it again for different time zones. So that'll be on next week too, if you want to join again, or if you've got anyone else that would be interested to join. Oh yeah, okay, so this is a good question. Some people, this is actually a really good question. So I get really excited about the pay increases that people get in the course, but someone has asked a really valid question. It's not the first time I've heard this. What if I'm more interested in the clarity and the confidence and I'm less interested in the pay? So I would say actually that probably is in some ways a bigger part of the course, and it is a penny drop moment for a lot of people. For some reason, I just always focus on the metrics of the dollar signs. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I can quantify that a little more tangibly, but 100%. Like there's 3 modules. The first module is we really kind of understand you, who you are, what you really want, not what you've been told you should want, not what you've been wanting for the last 10 years, like what you actually want. Because some people are like, I only want to work 2 days a week. Like, how can I make a 6-figure salary and only work 2 days a week? And then we'll retrofit and figure that out. You know what I mean? So yeah, that is a huge benefit. And I appreciate that feedback, because that's probably on me to focus more on that for whatever reason. Maybe it's because Yeah, I don't know. I always focus on the dollars, but that's not the only part of the program. There's a whole module on office politics and managing that. There's a whole module on building a network so that you always have a plan B. If you get sacked tomorrow, it doesn't matter if you've done the course because you're good. You've got a network of folks who will have your back. There's an entire module on negotiating. Yes, it's about salary, but you can use that to buy a car, buy a house, deal with your teenage children. There's all sorts of applications for that. There's a whole module on your elevator pitch and selling yourself, because we all know what we do as a job, but do you know how to pitch that when you meet someone at a barbecue or a networking event or a board meeting? How do you actually sell yourself in a way that is really enticing to other folks so that they actually know your zone of genius and how you can add value to them? So there's a whole module on that. There's a whole module on values and understanding that zone of genius and how do you kind of quantify that as well. And then there's heaps of like scripts and checklists. There's like a salary calculator. So there's all of the things that you will need from that perspective, but it's a really good point. And I'm happy to answer any specific questions as well, Shelvia, on email if you like. Because yeah, some people are like, no, I'm good. My salary is pretty epic. My boss looks after me and I just don't know where I'm going to go next. Because sometimes you get to a point in your career and you're like, things are good. Things are an 8 out of 10, maybe an 8.5, but I'm looking for a 9 or a 10 out of 10. How do I get there? Because that's how I felt in journalism. I had like the best job in the world in some ways. I was traveling to Zimbabwe and Italy and the Philippines and, meeting interesting people and, shooting films, and it was amazing. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. It's like an 8 or an 8.5 out of 10. And I was like, I felt like there was something more for me. So I took a bit of I had another business and I was kind of working, but it was also like a working sabbatical to do a lot of this sort of groundwork, a lot of this mental gymnastics. And so I love paying that forward to other folks. There's an assessment that you can take as well. It's called Strength Finders. That's as part of the course too. And you have the opportunity to do coaching with my Strength Finders coach if you want to as well. And there's another couple of assessments that we run you through too, which also help you understand your saboteurs. So some of you might be people pleasers, all those kind of things. So we unpack that so you can understand yourself. Because when you understand what's going on here, it's easier for you to figure out how you can kind of translate that out here too, and how you can communicate that to other people. Because when I left journalism and started my own business, my friends would just kind of look at me. My friends in media were like, who are you? Because they didn't understand. And what I now know is that I have one of the strengths that's called activator, which means that I love starting businesses and getting things going. And I'm very excited and like motivating and whatever. And that's a strength of mine. So it comes very easily. But for some of my friends, they don't have that strength. So they think that that's a bit weird and wacky, but they have other strengths. And I look at them and I'm like, how did you do that? Because I don't have those strengths, right, that they have. So we all have a makeup of 30 plus different strengths, and understanding what your top 5 are is hugely valuable. And we do that in the first 2 weeks of the course. So that's pretty pivotal, I would say. And when we run this program for a lot of corporates, that's often the most impactful part for a lot of people, is that self-assessment, that strengths assessment, being able to quantify and put words around what is your zone of genius. I also appreciate that feedback, Shelby, because I feel like I need to do a better job of explaining that the course is not just about money, even though that's what I always focus on. I don't know why I do that. That's some interesting food for thought for me for the weekend. So I appreciate your question, because it's helped me unpack that a little more, which is good. I'm trying to think, I think I was saying yesterday, one of our students, she got to create a bananas pay raise. She got one of the big ones. I think hers was like 87,000. She put in a pool for her kids. It's like that's kind of cool. It's like going to change the memories of her family. Like one of our students, she did the course maybe 2.5 years ago. And back then, one of her goals was to move to London, and it took her a while. She got more money, but about maybe 9 months ago, she moved overseas. So it probably took her 18 months to get that transfer, but she decided to stay with the company. She knew it would take longer, but it would be a better salary. So that was a pathway that she took. That was a pivot that she took. Nikki, one of our students, she did our very, very, very first course. This is going back a few years. And she has just rejoined the mastermind, actually, because we talk about the framework of your dream salaries in the course, the wish, the want, and the walk. And her salary is now at that wish figure. So back then she had this number that she thought was really unattainable. She's now earning more than that. So now she's going through the process of recalibrating to be like, okay, I need to do this exercise again because I've actualized to that point. I'm hitting those salary numbers, and now what? So I think it's handy. Well, from what I hear from the students is like they love having that like that space being held for them to actually think about these things, and to have people encourage them and go like, what if you what if you thought bigger than that? Or what if you thought about taking your foot off the brake for 12 months? Like, what if you could actually afford to do that? What would it look like? How could you plot that out? And how could you sort of make that a goal over the next couple of years? So it is about salary and career, and it's also about more than that. It's actually about your life. How can you structure your life in a way that you want it? So for me, I always wanted a life where I could have geographic freedom, and journalism kind of gives you that, but also you're sort of at the behest of someone else, and I didn't want that. And so that's part of why I built my business, because I wanted to be able to, I guess, work from a car on the side of the road in the middle of Brooklyn. Wasn't the plan today. Thanks for your patience with understanding the accident on the road that added an hour to my trip. But yeah, and that looks different for everyone. Some people are like, I want to get to the executive. I want to sit on the executive within 5 years. Let's go. And other people are like, I only want to do 2 days a week work, or I want to create passive income, or I want to be leading a team, or I want to be able to afford to go and work for my dream, not for profit. How do I do that? Some people just like, I want to feel valued at work. I have a great job, but my boss is an asshole. Like, how do I manage that? And how do I not get pushed out of this job because I really love it? So there's people come to the program for different reasons, but most folks have between 5 and 20 years of experience. And most people are like, think that things are possible. Or they maybe wish that things would be possible, and we help you in the course to understand that like there is a lot more that's possible than we could ever even have imagined. And crowdsourcing and having that group cohort program is so pivotal to understanding that, which is one of the things that I love about it. So yeah, I've rambled longer than my 5 minutes I've had allocated today. But any questions? Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Maggie?
Siska, do you want to jump?
Yeah, I can jump in. So, hello everyone. I just want to say a few words actually. When I joined in the challenge, I think it must be 2 years ago as well, right, Maggie? And the
It was
course.
a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so I also was I was in the crossroad and I wasn't happy with my job. And I knew at that time the pay rise also not an option because I work in government sector.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that I need to do something with my life. I also just had baby at that time, like 2-3 years. I think I'm not sure whether that's like the motherhood syndrome or not, but yeah, I was questioning myself, and then it's proven that I'm more confident now to put my best foot forward, even with the salary negotiation of how I present myself, what is my value, and what I could negotiate or not negotiate. What do I need? What do I want?
Amazing.
I think that's that's the
Amazing.
most important. The pay
Yeah.
rise is the byproduct of it.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
once you know once you know what you want and who you are, I think that's the most powerful thing. That's all I want to
It's
say.
interesting, isn't
Thank
it?
you.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. And Siska, I mean, we don't have to talk numbers, but I feel like from memory, your email, it was 22% increase you got, right? From memory?
Yes. And that's
Yeah.
like two course of the time. So in the last 2 years, it's that's close to 50K, by the way. And that's I
50K.
didn't imagine
Wow.
that. Yeah, I
Wow,
didn't
I actually
imagine
didn't even
that.
know it was that much. Like, wow. Okay, cool. So this is, and by the way, Cisco and I didn't plan this. So yeah, Cisco did the course a couple of years ago. So this is really interesting. I knew that it was 22%. I didn't know that quantified to $50,000. So here's the thing. Like I mean, so that's probably for you, Cisco. I think the course was around the same price when you did it. It was around 1,500. So I guess that's like a 30x return, maybe 20 to 35x return on investment. And that's in the first year, right? So nothing of future increases. So nothing of the retirement, benefits on top of that. So that's what I mean. Like, listen, the course is an investment in terms of it costs money, and that's because I have a team. I value the work that we do. I know it leads to results, et cetera, et cetera. I have to feed my family and my team's families as well, whatever. But also it works. And also it is an investment of your time, right? So you're looking at about half an hour a week for those 8 weeks. on average. You can definitely do more, but that's kind of the minimum. You can watch it back later. If you miss a session, it's not the end of the world. But it is important that you have skin in the game too, because if you want a $50,000 pay increase, it doesn't just happen like that. I mean, I hope it does, and God bless you if it does. But like, it takes work, and I don't think it's ridiculous for you to invest 4 or 5 hours, and $1,500 of your time and money, if it's going to reap a reward of $5,000, $10,000, $17,000, $50,000, like that's a good ROI if you're a math person or a finance person. Like that's good. So, and sometimes it's like you also have to have that cohort, because you're in a cohort. If you don't show up, people will be like, where were you? It's that accountability as well, so that you actually do hold the space for you to focus on yourself and to have that time and mindset and mind space to be able to just focus on you and what you want at work. Because I'm going to guess that a lot of you spend a lot of time focusing on other people, your family, your friends, whatever, your community. And actually, it's okay for you to focus on yourself, because as we've just heard from Siska so eloquently, like it pays off, put it that way. And I don't know, Siska, if you want to share in the chat what you're doing with that extra money, or what your kind of like plans are. But that would be interesting too. Okay, so there's a question. Okay. So there's a question. Do you have any thoughts about quiet promotion, i.e. the reward for great work? The reward for great work is more work. Yeah, so I mean, we can chat about this for hours, and I'd want to know the specifics more, but this is around boundaries. And one of the bonuses that you get for people who join in the next 24 hours, the course, you do get the Boundaries Without Being Bitchy video series, which is with those execs who talk about, like, you have to treat people how to you have to teach people how to treat you, right? So you can expect your boss and your colleagues to treat you with respect, to respect that you clock off at 5, to respect that you don't do emails on the weekend. But if you don't teach them that that's how you need to be treated, then potentially you will get rewarded with more work because of your great work, right? And you won't be compensated for that. So it comes down to boundaries and being able to draw those boundaries in a loving and respectful way, but also from a place of strength without losing your warmth and your authenticity, right? So we talk a little bit about that in the course, actually, the fact that men can be seen as strong even if they're not warm, but women, if we're behaving in a strong way without warmth, we're seen as bitchy and as aggressive. Right. So the research actually tells us that we need to bring our warmth to our strength in order to get those best results. And I'm not going to be able to unpack that properly in the time we've got now, but that just gives you a bit of a flavor of some of the things that we talk about. So sometimes you want to be rewarded for more work because you're looking for those promotion opportunities, you're bored and you want to be stretched, and that's fine. And it's also fine for you to quantify that, to track that, and to reflect that back and make sure that you're rewarded in time off in lieu, equity, compensation, whatever that may look like. So yeah, so this is, it sounds to me, I don't know the full details and I'm happy to chat to you on email, but it sounds to me that this could be a boundaries thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, boundaries in the workplace are really hard to enforce because, again, often as women, we're not socialized to be shown what it looks like to put in place kind and loving boundaries. And we're certainly not always rewarded for that in the workplace, right? So it's again, it comes back to, it's a muscle, right? Like, you don't just get to like go into work and just like put in place hectic boundaries one day. It's how do we breadcrumb people to get towards where you want them to go in terms of those boundaries, respecting you, your time, your capacity, your emotional labor, all of those things as well, right? So yeah, happy to chat about that further, but I suspect that the boundaries bonus would probably be really valuable for you in this instance. And we do talk a little bit about that in the course. It's not the focus, but what is the focus is that negotiation piece of knowing your worth, understanding that, and being able to negotiate for that, right? And negotiation is about boundaries too. I will do this and this, or I can do this. Or if I can't get the pay raise, I understand that. And here's what's the consequence of that going to be, so laying that out and giving them options to say, this is what I would really love to be paid. And if they say that's not possible, you say, okay, awesome. Here's another alternative that I have, so having those alternatives up your sleeve so that you can kind of pivot and continue the conversation so that you get to the outcome that you want. So I hope that's helpful, Anne. I hope that's helpful. Any other questions? One argument a boss can tell you is that you are receiving a salary because you're showing results and that is what is expected. Okay, cool. Yeah. So 100%. So, actually I was on a call today to a corporate client. You put it really well. She was saying, hang on, what was it? Performance. Oh yeah. Performance is expected before we can talk about potential. So don't expect your boss to talk to you about being a high potential player, or like, let's put you on this high potential project, blah, 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 let's give you stretch exercises until you can show performance. So performance is the base layer. You got to be performing 100%. That's true. That's fair. I have a team. I expect them to perform. And if they're not performing, that's a problem. So you got to perform. And once you're performing and you're kind of like, excelling or overachieving or performing to a really high standard, then we can talk about potential, right? Potential stretch opportunities, potential for flexible conditions, potential for more salary or titles, right? So yes, and there's a fine line between those two things, but absolutely. And, this is a course that really is for people who are performers, and I know that you all are, right? I know that you're performers anyway. If you're not performing well, I don't think it's reasonable necessarily to expect a pay increase, right? So I'm making assumptions in a lot of what I'm talking about that you are already performing to a good standard at the very least, right? And there's ways sometimes we make mistakes, we have a bad year, whatever. There's also ways to mitigate that and to communicate that to a boss, which we talk about as and when it comes up in the course too. But absolutely, like, performance should be expected, and then everything else on top of that, we want to make sure that we're being compensated for, or like that we're at least pointing it out to our boss, and it comes back to timing. Like, if you start a new job, negotiating it 7 weeks in isn't necessarily the best strategy, right? I had an intern, literally, she asked for a pay raise on the second day of her job, and she wasn't performing, to your point, Patty. Like, she wasn't even hitting bare minimum. So that was awkward, right? So it's also about reading the room and understanding the importance of timing, of choosing your time. Now, listen, if you've been at a job for 7 weeks and you do something unbelievably amazing that's game-changing, sure, there may be an argument to say you can have that conversation early on, but it would want to be pretty extraordinary. Typically, you would wait for that sort of 9 to 12 month mark before having that conversation, all the while reflecting back those achievements throughout that time frame as well. So, yeah. Any other questions? I know I've taken up a lot of your time today, but let me pop my email in the chat. I'm just Meggie@peptalkher.com. If you want to do the course with a friend, it's always nice to have that accountability too. So you should definitely reach out about that. You don't have to only ask a raise when you're above expectations, Patty. So we can jump into the minutiae in the course, but there's a framework that I'll talk you through that will really help with this. Happy Friday to you too, Shelvia. I can't believe it's Friday. It's Saturday for some of you. It's Friday here in New York City. So I'm going to stop taking up your Friday night, your Friday afternoons, your Saturday mornings. Thank you for joining the challenge. Keep an eye out. You'll get some calendar invites for some sort of wrap-up sessions next week too, as we sort of reiterate those learnings. But so nice to see you. Thanks for joining, Anne. Patty, good to see you. Thanks, Siska, Andrea, Tari, Nora. Nice to see you as well. Any questions that come up, shoot me an email and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you. I will drive safely. I appreciate you. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care. Bye. See ya.